Hello everyone, Kurt over here, and welcome back to another episode from Hopefitter Labs. Today we're going to be continuing on with the Dagger sections of Fury, and we're going to be building upon what we talked about last week, which was in regards to how drawing the dagger is a key component to how we may actually find other defenses later on. Now I took the time last week to really look at okay, when we talk about drawing, and I talk about Dente di Chingaro, the position he sees when he talks about within his dagger section against the sword. Whenever I'm teaching out here, how you procure the dagger is a very key component when you talk about follow-on considerations of escalation. And in my opinion, that's exactly what we're going to be looking at here when it comes down to Sixth Master Dagger. Sixth Master Dagger is talking about utilizing a dagger in the Mesoporte di Ferro doubled. From the frontal position right here, and it has got some insights to it. So before I get too far into it right here, we're going to take a look and see what this is about and see how the draws that we saw last week might it might have a factor into making this first crossing. So let's get into it.
Okay, so this week we are continuing on with the Sixth Master Dagger, and this is where we start to see where we're seeing dagger on dagger conflict. Now, last week we talked about how ways I see in which we use the position of Dente di Chingaro, where if I'm wearing this in here, and I'm not obviously wearing a scabbard, but as I pull across, I can create this shape, or I might be able to pull out and make this type of shape right here. Sixth Master itself, we're talking about the very, very, very beginnings. What's very important about this, what it is, what it isn't, is what we're also seeing here within the text that's right here. The main thing that we're seeing with this is that we're talking about utilizing the Mesoporte di Ferro doubled, where one person, I've grabbed the dagger with my right hand, and I've also utilized the dagger into the left hand where I keep the point right here. So now for me, when I'm making this, I don't think you want to grab the point. Obvious reasons that can be used against you, and also impact-wise, I can drive the dagger into the hand. So you're always talking about keeping a little bit out this way right here. Now, the other reason why we may be making this cover this way, at least how I see it, is I also have a little bit of an edge here in which I can dig into somebody. I might be able to poke at somebody, and so on and so forth. So regardless of that, we have a little bit of space here in that capacity to do what we need to do with the dagger. The image shows this. So it shows the image of a man coming in with a strike, utilizing that, passing some forward with this right here, and then off to the side like this. Okay. Now, the interesting part about this, whether I'm here or here, it doesn't matter here. We're going to talk about that in a second here. This is one of the positions right here where contextually, it's not just talking about one and done kind of concepts. What Fury tells us about this is this is good with both within and out of armor. Now, let's look at some of the obvious things right here for when we talk about covers in armor. If I come up with this right here, I can utilize this cover. He comes up with this. I have the bell-shaped portion of the gauntlet here that I can rise upward in. I can cover in here. I can steer. I can turn. I'm also wearing armor, which makes me a lot more protected here to be able to take care of different types of actions here. It also makes it so that I weigh a little bit more so I can drive his arm back here with a double hand in this position. That's very obvious right here. Protection, weight, mass, also manipulation on the person's arm. Out of armor, it also makes a lot of sense here because the cover itself, I'm no longer just putting my hand up here. And we've talked about before, like this right here, it sucks to get hit this way, okay? But forearm, that bone on the in portion of meat right here to get in type of manipulation into the arm, that all sucks because of the impact shot. Now we're talking about a piece of metal that is, in some cases, a flat blade edge. Some cases we see it in a triangular form. I've even seen examples where the blade itself is more of, again, it's a square piece. I don't know for certain if they have ones that are rounded, so it's just like a big old all piece, whatever the case may be. I'm not certain on that. If someone does know, please put it in there. But that's what you're seeing here. Regardless of this, first and foremost, if I put this here and he drives in his arm at me, this is something hard on bone. If he's driving down with a dagger shot, nice and slightly here, if I come in with it, that sucks to have this go into the bone section right here, into the impact. So I can utilize this position right here. This could be a strike, and I'm not actually going to strike. Just make the shape, please. And I can go wham up as hard as I can with this to stop this. This in itself is a means to disrupt, of course, covering, but it's also a way of injuring the arm, right? Remember the 5 things that Fury tells us to do. Take the dagger away, strike them, bind the arm, break the arm, bind the arm, and then throw them to the ground. All that stuff. In this, I am taking the dagger away and striking at the same time, I believe. Because I'm coming up like this to strike in and to get that context into the arm right here, to shut it down, to hurt this, and to potentially even have him retract it. Sometimes, I don't know if for me, sometimes if I punch something, if you've ever done any track, when I used to do bag work, if I punched a bag and I hurt my wrist, I've done with bam, boom, 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 and I pull back and I'm like this. Can't say that a person that's willing to actually put this into me right here is thinking, oh wow, I'm going to retract on this. But I wonder, in this case here, as if I slam up with this, is this person going to retract back from the pain of having someone attack into you? I don't know. It's a potential. But these are some of the things right here that I see when we talk about this is why it's good in and out of armor. And that essentially right here can be used in either way. With my hands being like this, I have a huge surface area for cover. When we were doing Second Master, this right here, I'm closer because that is the point right here of where that space is as far as catching goes. With this, I'm further out and I have a harder surface to hurt the person here in the forearm area. Okay, so those are some of the factors we see right off the bat about making this structure. The next thing that Fiore talks about here is that this position here, even though the image shows this right here, he states that it can cover any line. So the image may show one thing, but all the other things out there show that you have a continuation of this. Meaning that if he throws, so that right there being a mandrito fendente, so come high above, he can throw a Mazzani from this side right here off the Revezzo. He can throw a Mazzani off of the mandrito. He can throw a Sotani line that's with the ice pick grip coming up with me on this right here, and I can still come down. He can do it with Sotani line with a point forward of this, and I still have the covering mechanisms that are necessary to stop this right here. Again, I'm going to show this right here. So here's the part with the dagger here in place. You can tell automatically. Now the thing is, this sucks. This is his wrist. So if I slam that down as hard as I can, or into his thumb, into anything right here to grind him and move in this direction here, that's not very comfortable. And I'm not trying to go very hard at all. Sorry, what you say?
Not comfortable at all, no.
No. And I would say it's probably not a good time in general, right? So here's the first thing here. So first and foremost, we'll have him switch his legs here so he's as long as possible. Because remember, he's trying to stick me. We're not talking about some fencing form of hey, let's fence with the dagger here. We're talking about this someone's coming in with a shot here to stick you, right? So if I'm like this right here, in this case, right, and he's long, in this case right here, if I don't move, you can already tell with the bar right here, you can see that there's not much space, but there's 6 inches or so of space between the point into my chest. Now notice the difference. Now, just keep it there. There's like an inch. So automatically you can see how much this right here gains space and is defensive as much as it is offensive as much as it is defensive. Okay? So again, what this may look like right here, because remember this first week right here, we're talking about how we go into this first portion right here and how we may create that opportunity. We'll just talk off of the Mandrito side here. So remember, a situation that may look like here, and forgive me, I'm not wearing my dagger belt, so I'm just going to have to tuck this into my legs. Something that may happen, and this is something we practice within our course. Again, I'm not saying that this is the answer here, but to me it makes a lot of sense. Because if you're fighting with somebody and sparring, we're sparring, ha, I'm ready for it. He does it again. Ha, I'm ready for it, right? So this right here is not realistic. What may be happening in reality is he comes in with this, and I'm like this off the bat. I go out and I move up into context right here. Now, he's not going to let me just do anything right here, and I'm not going to let him do anything right here either. It's now a struggle. So something that may happen here is where we apply what happens in Abrazari, where you use all the strikes, the pressures and everything else, the groin spots, to get him away, and now I'm coming in to this. I've created space. So if he's backwards in this, and again, there's not a lot of space in here, so please use your imaginations. I shove him off, I pull my dagger, and now I'm in a spot right here, right? So I may be thinking, first and foremost, the first thing in this right here is this isn't a tournament of like, okay, yep, I hit you first. Oh, sorry, it's a double. I got the point first. That's not what we're talking about here. The first thing that we're thinking right here is not hit back. The first thing we're thinking about here is get it out, and as this thing's coming, I've got to stop this thing, okay? So in this case right here, depending on how that first impact happens, because again, if I'm walking around, if it's a dagger duel in armor, which I think that there's relevance to it, that could be a possibility of a thing, but if this is a street assault, because remember, in or out of armor, then I'm not walking around like a Skyrim character, okay? That's not what I'm doing here. What I'm doing is, I probably have this thing tucked in here. I'm listening. This is probably, I have my pouch here, whatever the case may be. Many different ways of having this here. Sometimes on the left side, sometimes on the right side. Doesn't really necessarily matter. What does matter is that essentially, as this knife attack happens, it doesn't matter. I have to play into this in certain form and fashion, right? So he may not be coming up with a grapple. So if he's doing fifth master, I'm sitting here like this, he comes up, we work in this, I push him off, and now I'm into this, right? Or another option right here is, just think first master dagger. He comes in with the first master, and I pop in. You notice right here that I actually grabbed here, and I still did this. So those are factors that, again, the point of being here or being here, image is this, image is that, is you're going to get what you get. You either pull this out and as you get that lineman right here where it's nice and long, or you pull this thing out and you're here and I can still parry the same way, okay? This could be a second master position where he comes in right here, pop, pop, I push him off this way, and we put right back into this, right? And actually I went to seventh master that time. It could be very, very much so simply, again, he comes in, I shove him off, we get it disengaged, and instead of turning around this way, he shoots a revezzo at me. And now I'm off in this way right here, and we have this cover, okay? The big thing that's important is that like I said, the thing we talked about last week and this week is that they come together. This is not us walking around like this with Patsy from, Monty Python behind us with coconuts. Us walking around like this with the dagger. That's not what's happening, okay? I may have a dagger out, but that's a different kind of situation here. So I could either have this thing out, he sees me in the street, and that's how this gets into that kind of altercation. That is absolutely a possibility. But if we're talking about getting this thing out, it makes a lot more sense to get this thing, the dagger, clear the body so that I can make covering mechanisms as I see fit. And like I said, depending, because dagger belts, they sway. If I come here and this is all I get, I'm not going to sit there and go, oh God, I grabbed it wrong, I can't do the thing. I'm going to get this thing out, I'm going to put my hand here as fast as possible so that I have the elongation into a place that covers down, okay? So that's the first thing right here when it comes down to sixth master dagger. Sixth master is utilizing the elongation of this right here. You're using pulsar frontality, you're putting the dagger between the hands right here, and we're going from the position of mesoport di ferro, whether the thumbs are inboard or in line, it doesn't matter. The point being is that you're trying to utilize this portion right here. In a serious situation in time, you're not gonna sit there and say, well, I rolled the wrong thing today, I can't do that technique. You're still gonna do everything that you can off of a cover that makes sense in an assault, okay? So with that being the case here, like I said, that's the introduction. A little bit longer, a little bit long-winded on this right here. But again, the big thing we want to understand here for the series that come after with this right here is why, off of this right here, some of the images work the way that they do is because we're not just talking about this. We could be talking about this, here, up this way, or even this little tiny line into the lower quarter area. It doesn't matter. Any line, any capability here, I just am making the cover where I utilize up, out, side, down in this way right here.
So you can see with the video that essentially when we look at this play, the image shows a guy coming up with the dagger and the tips up in the air and all this other stuff right here and where's he at and so on and so forth. But it's good for in and out of armor, and like I said before in the footage, you can utilize this to cover the strikes that are coming around you. So that there's a very key component, because ultimately you can cover revesos, you can cover mandritos, you can cover lower line thrusts and high line stuff right here. The point is that outward positioning, and that how effectively we may actually be hurting the arm when it comes down to utilizing a metal thing into somebody's forearm. That's a huge part to this right here that I think is very important to understand. Sometimes when, like in our curriculum, we utilize a padded dagger, obviously for safety purposes, you don't get the full totality of how bad it really sucks to have your arm bruised with metal or cut into with metal when they brace up to it with a metal bar as you're coming in with a committed shot. There's a lot to that it kind of gives the mentality of like, oh, this is not really going to hurt or anything like that. And that's not true at all. So sometimes when I work with people offline and we work with we're just wearing padded gloves and we're doing dagger work, when that person shoots up with a cold steel rondelle, and those trainers, the plastics, the black synthetics, those still hurt the inside of the arm. And if you're catching somebody in the wrist area, in the hand, or like this right here, there's a lot there that you're potentially causing somebody as a softening blow, as an effective strike in, to cause the person to move out. Remember, effective strikes don't necessarily mean hitting the eyes and everything else right here, like he states in the very beginning, things that will cause people great damage and hurt and pain. An effective strike means a strike that's effective, not just hitting something for the sake of hitting something, but hitting something that's effective to get the outcome. I think that's a key factor when it comes down to specifically this master play right here. So, the first covering of this right here, I really like this concept because, in my opinion, it is something that we are missing, or something that I've been missing when I was doing training years ago. No, we're not walking around, I think, like Skyrim characters. We're not video game characters where we can all walk around with arms about like this right here. And, if you were, there's some repercussions, especially in this day and age and in our present day and age, that holds against us. So it's important to remember that this is probably stuff that's coming out of the draw or out of the situation, and you have to procure your arm, however you do that, in order to be able to address on somebody who's coming at you. So that's a big part about this. And, whether you see someone coming up and you decide to meet escalation, or someone comes at you and grabs it and you get them off and then you meet escalation there, those are questions that we don't know. And again, that goes back to the concept when we look at what Fiore gives for advice. Essentially, you have to look and assess your opponent. Well, what happens if you don't have that? What happens if you don't have the time for that? And that's really what I think the Dagger section is about, is those immediate actions that you should be taking or that you need to train in the event that someone surprises you, jumps you, etc. Which, from my understanding, the 14th century and beyond, and just in general, was a very common thing to be worried about. So anyway, that's going to wrap up this video right here. Again, I'm really curious what everyone else is thinking about there. What are you doing for dagger draws out there? Are you doing some of these plays of 6th and 7th master from the scabbard, or are you playing with them out in the front of you? What insights have you got out there? What research have you done on these things? Please, this is not a challenge. This is me saying, what have you found out there? Because I think that's just another way to be able to cultivate a lot of this work out there. I'm very interested in this type of stuff right here. Again, movement and deploying arms in general is a very key component that I think is very important in understanding historical martial arts, because it's not a match. And of course, yes, there are potentially armored combat situations like that, but that's also in a space where either lost my main arm, lost my second arm, and I go to the dagger. It could be we start off with daggers. It could be many things. But if this is in and out of armor, this means it could be a street fight. It means it could be anything. And I think those are key components right there that are very important to simulate, to understand periods of time in history that had extreme forms of violence. So, please leave a comment below. Let me hear your thoughts. Love to hear it. If you have research, share a link. Love it. Okay. Thank you so much, my subscribers out there, for paying attention and chiming in when you can out there and sharing. And it's helping the channel grow. Loving it. Please help me to continue to do so. I'm really enjoying that, and I'm really enjoying the interactions I get with you all, and also some of the things I hear that comes with this. If you're new to the channel, consider liking and subscribing. Don't forget to hit the bell. You'll get notifications about when we drop this right here, or any other additional things that may come out without the week. Right now we're focusing heavily on the dagger. However, we'll see later on how much this right here actually plays into other concepts, especially when it comes down to the arms of Armadzari. So again, please like, share with a friend, hit the bell, and leave a comment if you have any thoughts or considerations below. Until next time, everybody, as always, please stay safe out there, train well, and fight on. I'll see you all soon.